This week, we air our 13th pre-recorded segment called Say Easy, Do Hard. Inspired by my co-host Jason Albuquerque, we discuss performance through people. Greg Hoffman joined us a few weeks back to discuss his new book. This week, we dig into his 5 disciplines of performance through people and do the hard part. Business Security Weekly starts now. It's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for emerging risks, leadership, and communication. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 459, recorded July 20th, 2026, but will air on August 3rd, 2026 to kick off Black Hat USA 2026, because Jason and I are going to be in Las Vegas.
That's right.
I'm your host, Matt Alderman, and joining me for this Say Easy, Do Hard segment is the previously aforementioned Mr. Jason Albuquerque.
Hey, what's going on, Matt? I'm excited for this one. Can't believe we've done 13 Say Easy, Do Hards at this point.
I know, 13.
Pretty freaking amazing.
I think we skipped one quarter because things got so busy.
Things were crazy, but amazing that we were able to create this whole focused episode on the saying that I always used to put out there. It's really easy to say, but so hard to do.
So hard to do.
I love these sessions.
So let me introduce our guest again. He was on a few weeks ago. Greg Hoffman is the creator of Performance Through People, a leadership development system he built over more than 25 years as a senior executive in global manufacturing, financial services, and autonomous technology, with roles at companies like General Electric and Whirlpool. His book, Performance Through People, which we talked about, came out in June of this year and gives leaders a practical roadmap for building the conditions where high performance becomes repeatable. Greg, welcome back to Business Security Weekly.
Thanks, Matt. I'm excited to be here to dive a little deeper.
Yeah, so as we were doing that segment, we were like, oh my God, we have so many questions. Like, there's so much to dig into. We said, why don't we just bring them back? We'll do a Say Easy, Do Hard segment, and let's walk through this. So set us up a little bit. I'm almost going to turn this over to you because you're the expert here. So what are we going to do today?
So let's do this. The book, we talked a little bit about that last time. It's a parable, and you really get to experience the leadership challenges and the implementation of some of these, systems through the characters in the book. And I thought that was really important for people to experience it because, to your point, it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. And through experience, you see some of those struggles and those challenges that the characters go through. Today, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the how. So how do we operationalize this system in a way that we really change the conditions in the environment? And to do that, we had developed a 2-day intensive leadership course. And so I'm going to take you through how those 5 elements play out through that course and why the course itself is a little bit different from the book. The framework's not different, but the purpose of it is very, very different. We really get into the how and teach leaders how to operationalize this with their team. And I think more importantly, they actually begin building the plans to operationalize it for their team in the room. They're not just learning it, they're actually doing it in that 2-day intensive seminar.
So we're going to try to do that in roughly 45 minutes to an hour.
For sure. We can do it.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, I'll just jump right in. The course is really a 2-day course. There's 5 modules and they follow the 5 disciplines, just like in the book where we lay out the framework with the 5 disciplines. First is the leadership first mindset. And the idea of the leadership first mindset, as we talked about on the show, is leaders have to hit the door every day thinking about, what do I have to do to help my team succeed? And if you're focused on doing your substantive job, the thing that you did when you were an individual contributor, whether it's coding if you're an engineer or if you're a lawyer, developing documents or doing transactions, or if you're an accountant doing, spreadsheets, whatever it is, that takes you away from the leader work. And so that first module revolves around helping people make the transition to say, I'm going to commit to having a leadership first mindset. And I'm going to give a quick overview of the 5 first, and then we'll dig into how the program works. The second is operational clarity. And we say operational clarity because everybody talks about creating clarity, but operationalizing it is the hard part, right? Actually driving it down into the business in a way that people understand what to do. And it doesn't have to be this command and control, top down, constant alignment. People align themselves around that clarity that's been built. And we're going to do a little bit of work on that today. Because we have a little exercise that we're going to do where we're going to try to develop a vision statement for the CISO advisor business that Matt's working on. But operational clarity comes from a complete purpose architecture that has the purpose at the top, which is why are we all here every day? The vision is where we're going. Think of it as maybe like 10 years, right? Where are we going to be in 10 years? Then there's a success formula that says, okay, well, if we're going to achieve that in 10 years, what things have to be true along that journey on a regular basis so that we can achieve that vision? And then we have values, and all those together, purpose, vision, success formula, and values make up a purpose architecture that gets then operationalized through the business. And the course really teaches the importance of that. That's number 2. Number 3, capability. Again, all these words are, they're common words, right? But capability really says, we have to have capable individuals and capable teams who are capable of doing the technical work, but also capable of leading. And so the course gets into the how, and people in the course are going to actually work with their own direct reports, their own team, the leaders. They're going to evaluate them based on technical skills, but they're also going to evaluate them based on their ability to lead themselves. And if they're a leader, their ability to lead others, and whether the team together has the right skill set. And so that work gets done right in the course. It gets built into a plan when you leave. And, if I decide Matt maybe needs a little work and I'm going to put him on a performance improvement plan, right? I'm going to make that commitment before I leave the class and make sure that that's part of the growth plan that comes out of the class. And so we can begin executing on that as soon as we get back to the office.
I guess a PIP is coming my way.
So that's number 3. Number 4 is empowerment. And we talked about last time as empowerment's a dial, not a lever. So we have 4 levels of empowerment. And empowerment is really an equation, if you will, that says if you have high operational clarity and you have high capability, you'll have a high trust environment. And there in that high trust environment, you can fully empower people. But there's going to be times when you don't have good operational clarity, or you don't have a lot of capability in one place or the other. And you're going to have to dial back a little bit. You can't, be irresponsible to empower people when we don't have good operational clarity or they're not capable. The last and final element is really a feedback loop, and we call it impact. And the reason we call it impact is because when you started out, you had an intent, right? You had an intent for this is what we want the outcome to be. Now the question is, we measure it. Did we get the impact that we intended? And we go right back through that loop and say, if we didn't, let's see where we failed to build the right environment where people could give us and deliver the result that we wanted them to deliver. So that's the 5 elements of the system, if you will. And then I want to stop right there and take a breath and let y'all ask any questions or clarify anything you have. And then I want to dive into how the course does the hard part, which is help people actually put this into work in their environment.
This episode is sponsored by Microsoft Edge for Business, the browser with built-in protections for Microsoft 365 customers. With employees using AI and web apps more than ever, Edge for Business helps you stay in control, securing sensitive data, protecting against shadow AI, and stopping threats right in the browser. You don't need to worry about added extensions, new tools, or extra costs. It's the secure enterprise browser you already have, built for the era of AI. Visit securityweekly.com/edge for business to learn more. The rules just changed. AI like Mythos now finds and weaponizes 0 days on its own, and your patch window just dropped from weeks to hours. One prompt, Titanium Atlas. It scans thousands of endpoints in seconds. It confirms which machines are actually breached, then hunts the attacker's command and control. Atlas then acts to isolate, quarantine, rotate credentials, and patch every endpoint in real time. Tanium Atlas, AI that doesn't just answer, it executes. Find out more at securityweekly.com/Tanium.
I mean, from my perspective, I think these disciplines are incredible, and they're incredible focus areas for us as leaders to really pay attention to. And I want to preface this before we start digging in. I think a lot of what we need to do is be honest with ourselves throughout this entire process, because some of it is leaders have rose-colored glasses, or they kick the can down the road. They fall victim to maybe either dependency or acting in a fashion of execution versus strategy. So I want to preface this conversation with some of these are going to have to be brutal moments of brutal honesty as a leader for yourself. So I just wanted to open it that way.
So true, Jason. So true. Awesome. Well, let me jump into how the mechanics of how this program works and how we bring this to life. So first of all, I want everybody to understand when you come to this program, or if we bring this program to your company, you're going to spend 2 days doing leader work. You're not going to sit in a classroom and just hear me talk at you or hear one of our facilitators talk at you. You're going to actually do leader work. So before the class even starts, there's going to be a survey that goes out. We call it the leadership baseline assessment. That survey will go out and they will ask you, your direct reports, and your leaders all about a series of questions that go across all 5 disciplines. How are you performing with a leadership first mindset? How are you doing driving operational clarity, capability, empowerment, and impact? And there's questions in there that, they don't ask them that bluntly, right? There's questions in there designed to get it. How do you behave in your environment across those 5 disciplines? And we do it from the leader's perspective, from your perspective, and from the direct reports perspective. And where does that data go? That data goes back into Lauren. And why Lauren? Lauren is the CEO in the book, Performance Through People, that turns the company around. And she's also now a virtual coach. So we've developed a virtual coach. We've named her Lauren. And the first thing she does is she sends out this survey where everybody gets a chance to weigh in. Your direct reports get to weigh in on you. You get to weigh in on yourself. And your leader gets to weigh in. And then all of that is kind of reconciled, and you get some analysis from Lauren about how you're performing in each of those areas.
So Greg, just quickly, that is my wife's name. That's exactly her role in the house, right? Just keep me straight and honest.
I love it. That's fantastic.
I mean, here's the thing. Much like Matt, that will open up a lot of vulnerability, right?
Yes, it will.
Absolutely.
Very quickly too.
I needed to tie the two together, right?
But I don't think we want to bring AI into that relationship, though, Matt.
But as a leader going into this, you have to be able to embrace vulnerability, because you're getting the questions. Other people on your team are getting questions. Direct reports are getting questions. And this is a moment of transparency, vulnerability. It's going to be a gut check, and maybe in a lot of instances, I'm assuming, and seeing some blind spots that you couldn't see. When you're having conversations around this program, how do you get leaders comfortable with that level of vulnerability?
Yeah, the main thing is you gotta want to be a better leader, right? And when we're selling the program, we're usually not selling it to the people who are going to sit in the class. We're usually selling it to HR, leadership development people, or the CEO or the COO, and they really have to have a leadership first mindset. And if that CEO or the COO or whoever's leaning into this program has that mindset, they want it for their whole team. And so it has to be supported from the top down, or it just doesn't work, Jason.
Now, how do you, just to dig a little bit deeper, Matt, I just want to go one layer deeper.
Yep.
I'm the chief operating officer of a company. I sit back and I say, all of my leadership team absolutely needs this. We need to do this as a company. How do you recommend I evangelize this to the rest of my team, so that way there's not riots and pitchforks and torches in the street when I walk in the room and I say, hey, guess what we're doing, guys?
Well, I don't know that I've ever seen any riots or pitchforks in the street.
Obviously, I'm going extreme, right?
Right. But I mean, sometimes you have people that are grumbling about leadership development, right? Yeah. And I think the important thing here is to make sure people understand we're not just going to sit you in a classroom for 2 days and talk at you. We're actually going to go do leader work. We're going to help you develop your team. We're going to help you develop your environment. Right. And you're going to walk out with a growth plan after that's,
it'll benefit you at the end.
That's the value prop I wanted you to articulate right there.
6 months. You've got the next 6 months planned. Here are the things I need to do.
I love it.
One quick thing on Lauren, when you put all this information in, to Jason's point, does it help to identify where those misalignment gaps are? Right? Like, I'm the leader. I answer it one way. My staff answers it another way. Yeah. My bosses answer it another way. Like, can it analyze? Because that's where some of the initial friction is going to come, right?
Yes, Lauren can analyze that, and even better, the class itself is experiential. So we don't just give you the data. We want you to experience the data and talk about it with your peers. It's peer-to-peer learning. So what we do is we pair up folks, and you take your data out of, we do it module by module. So we start with leadership first mindset. And you're going to take that data, you're going to look at it, and then you're going to pair up with somebody for, 15, 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, whatever. And you're going to talk about, here's what I'm seeing, trends in mind. Here's what I'm seeing. What do you think? And you're doing some peer-to-peer analysis around that data. And so that, you're using it. You're not just seeing it and it's part of a program. You're actually using it.
Awesome.
The whole class is like that, by the way, right? I mean, we're interacting, and so there's a lot of activities. Every module starts with a reading. So we have either a passage from the book, a section from the book, or we create one in the that looks like the book and feels like the book, specific to the module. So leadership first mindset, and we talk about what that means, and what keeps you from doing that in your day-to-day business, and what do you what barriers do you see to doing that? And we have those discussions. Then we go through some exercises. We do the leadership baseline survey in every module, and then we go through some exercises. I want to get to some of the cooler exercises. There's not a really cool one in the leadership baseline, in the leadership first mindset section, but there is a really cool one in the next module, which is operational clarity. And so that module works the same way. We get in there and we go through a reading, and we go through the assessment, and then we go in and we have an activity. And that activity is one thing I want to tell you about. It's a lot of fun. The activity, we go out and we are building a product, and that product is built by assembling cards, and the cards are components, right? It's a proprietary card game, and we've built our own cards, and there's pieces, there's a laser, there's various pieces, right? And there's a right answer to assembling that product. The CEO has it. He's sitting over there, and there's a communication challenge because you got to go back and forth to the CEO to get the input. It's very top down, right? And we go through this timed exercise where the teams compete and they're trying to build this product. And the first time around, it's really, really hard. The second time around, what we do is we have a purpose architecture that goes on the wall. That's the only thing that changes. The only thing that changes is we give them purpose, vision, success formula, and values. Mm-hmm. We hang it on the wall, and we go back and we run the exercise again. And it shows, it's really incredible the experience that they go through when they go, wow, having that operational clarity to truly understand what we're driving to was a game changer. And the amount of questions, back to the CEO, float, and there's not as many. And so it's really, really empowering, but you can see how it's interactive. It's not people just sitting around learning about purpose and
Greg,
vision.
I love those exercises. We had a company meeting back in January, and I ran a session for I had teams come through, and we ran sessions similar to this. And what I did was I handed a group of folks a box of crayons and some paper. And then I split them up into groups. And I said, you're the client group, go over in that corner. you're the solutions architect group, go over there, and you're the engineers that are going to build this thing. And then basically I would tell them a story and show them a picture at the client, and they had to go explain it to the SC. And the SC team solutions architect team had to go explain it to the engineers, and the engineers had to go draw it. And it's amazing the game of telephone when there's no clarity, right?
Yeah.
That ends up happening, and you don't get the solution that started way in the beginning, right? I love these kind of exercises.
Absolutely. Sorry, I had somebody waving at me through the window. Hopefully you can cut that out.
Luckily, this can be post-edited.
Just totally lost my train.
Mark this time.
All right. Okay, so yes, and every module, the other thing that's really cool is we go back to Lauren at the end of every module. So after you've learned about leadership first mindset, you've gone through the exercises, or you've gone through operational clarity and the exercises. At the end of the module, we do a keep, stop, start analysis. So based on what you've learned here today, Lauren is going to ask you, what are you going to keep doing? What are you going to stop doing? What are you going to start doing? And you program that into Lauren at the end of each module. So she's building it module by module. She's starting to build that growth plan. So at the end, we have it for all 5 modules. You can go in and kind of make some changes and things and massage it, but that's where your execution plan comes from. And then Lauren is able to hold you accountable. She's actually able to say, hey, you said you were going to put Matt on a PIP. Did you put Matt on a PIP? Right? How's that going? And that's the other problem with leadership programs. One, they don't work on real leader work in your real business. Ours does. And even if they did, no one would be there to hold the participants accountable afterwards. And so Lauren is there to kind of check back in and say, how's that going?
So is Lauren measuring the impact at the end?
Lauren well, that's a really good question, Matt. And I think over time, my vision for Lauren is to have data that we could give back to the company to say, hey, on the aggregate, I mean, we never want to say, Matt did or didn't do his homework, right? That would be just really creepy. But what we want to do is be able to say, hey, you sent, 30 leaders through this program. Here's the collective output of what changed as a result of those leaders' behavior. Here's the commitments they made. Here's the, overall and aggregate. Here's what changed in your environment. And if she can track the stuff, then we can say, and they followed up and they did it. And there's actually data there that we can send back to the company.
That's awesome. So can we take some time, and because each one of these disciplines has the say easy, do hard component, which is why, in the segment that you were on, we were like, oh my God, let's have them back, right? Because each one of these has so many do hard pieces to it. Can we walk through each one of these disciplines? Because there are going to be areas where leaders agree to jump in and hit, let's say, leadership first mindset. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to do this. And then when they realize, wow, this is hard work. How do I get there? What do I need to do? How do I invest? Right? It's let's get to the do hard pieces of each one of these.
Yeah, we can do that. And in fact, Matt and I did a little pre-work. And so for the operational clarity one, we were going to have a little discussion and try to create a vision for his CISO advisor business that he's wanting to create. So we could start there and do that one. If you want to jump into it, we can do it.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's do it. Security teams are overwhelmed. In 2025, more than 48,000 vulnerabilities were disclosed, yet only a small fraction pose real risk. Most organizations remain stuck in a reactive cycle, responding to everything without the clarity to know what actually matters. Origina, a global provider of independent software support, is built on one principle: giving organizations control over their own IT roadmap, risk, and critical systems. Optus by Origina is a predictive intelligence service that brings that same approach to security, helping teams predict risk, validate what matters, and act with confidence. Visit securityweekly.com/Origina for a conversation with a security expert today. Zero Trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default denied execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold. Trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's zero trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/threatlocker. So should I give some people a little background on what we talked about?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I've had this concept for a while now on how would I create an independent CISO advisor capability. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of models out there where they're kind of pay to play models, where, if you want advice from one of the analyst firms, you got to pay to get access to that knowledge. You want something to happen. There's a lot of what I would say are inherent conflicts in those relationships. And vendors and other people are paying to get their content in front of clients. And so I had this concept of, what if I built a knowledge base that is from CISOs for CISOs with nothing else in the mix, right? Like no vendor influence that won't taint the data and the results, and make this a pure kind of knowledge base for CISOs. So this has been my vision, and it's very different than the way we've approached this stuff in the past. And so it's like this whole new model concept. And so as we were thinking about, well, how could we run this exercise? Let's use this as an example. It's probably not 100% like what any other organization would go through, but I thought, one, it's my brainchild. So if we want to beat up on it, why not beat up on myself? And use it as a way for us to kind of show the hard part a little bit. So that's a backstory, Greg.
Awesome. Well, let me give a little backstory on what it takes to run a purpose exercise, because this is actually a facilitated product that we provide. And we can come in and help companies find their purpose, their vision, their success formula, and their values. And that actually happens in the book. So if you read Performance Through People, there's 2 chapters or a chapter and a half that's dedicated to that process. It's a fairly long process. And I really want to, the reason I want to explain this is because we're going to oversimplify it today. And I don't want anybody to walk away thinking it's really this easy, because it is hard. And so what we do in a company is we would start out 6-8 weeks before we have our facilitated on-site session with the team that we're working with, and we would interview. We would have probably 30 to 45-minute interviews with each of the team members, and we'd ask them some questions. What's your vision for the future? And just really flush out those places where they're not aligned, right? Values, success metrics, vision, purpose, flush out where the alignment is and isn't. We bring all that data into the room on the first day, and we put it on the wall, and we make sure that we level set. Here's where the team is. The idea of the facilitated session is to bring the team together and have an aligned vision, aligned purpose, aligned success formula, aligned values, and come out at the end of the day with that. And we do that through a series of, voting with stars and, markers and colored things, and, and fighting amongst one another, for the day. And you fight for what you want, and you fight for what you want. So it's a whole process, and it's a lot of work. And so I just want to make sure that the audience understands, when we come in to help you find your purpose, vision, success formula, or values, it's yours. It's not ours. It's yours. And it's the process that we work through to help you find it. So fast forward to today, how do we get here? I sent out a few questions before this meeting. And so we've got some answers here. And the first, we go through those, and then I asked them to draft. Matt actually drafted a draft vision statement that we'll beat up here in a minute amongst ourselves. I wish Summer was here, because I know she'd give us a hard time on this. So Jason, you're going to have to be just as difficult as Summer.
She's going to have to be rough on me, buddy.
It's all good. I have a ton of notes on this because I answered all the questions from my perspective, right? So I'd love to be able to go back and forth on this. No doubt. Let's do this.
Okay, so the first question I asked was, if CISO Advisor works exactly the way it should, what is different about the cybersecurity field 5 years from now because it exists? And Matt said, cybersecurity vendors no longer control the narrative, allowing businesses to make independent decisions. So, Jason, what's your thought about that? Is that dead on?
it's so funny how experiences and kind of the vertical that you're in dictate your answer, right? Because I totally get it from Matt's perspective, but then I took it from sitting in a leadership seat from a CISO perspective or a CIO side. And my answer to that was, if this is successful and how it's going to impact the industry, the CISOs are going to shed their title or identity of how they've always been a technical resource, how they've always been detached and siloed, how they're an IT problem, not a business risk or a business risk mitigator or business enabler. Really changing the dynamic of their infusion into the leadership team is the aspect that I took. Getting that influence, getting that trust, getting that seat at the table. If this is successful, the CISOs are winning because they're influencing the business.
I love that. So Matt, you focused on, getting the vendors out of the loop, and Jason focused on the outcome of what that does for the CISO's status in the business, their ability to influence the C-suite, all of that. So there's a little bit of a alignment issue there. And I think, both things can be true. So we'll work on that as we,
100%,
as we move forward. So picture a member 3 years in. What can they do, know, or decide that they could not do before CISO advisor? So this is the what, right? I mean, the first answer you gave us, Jason, was kind of how they would be viewed or how they would be ingrained. But so what? And Matt says they'll be better able to align cybersecurity decisions, including action and non-action, with business objectives.
Yeah. So I'm fairly similar, and I think these could align. I had a 2-word high-level answer, and it was strategic autonomy. Right? Mm-hmm. This is what they're going to get. They're gonna possess that strategic autonomy within the business to be able to decide with information and metrics instead of the business panicking or using FUD. They can orchestrate the talent that they need to be able to make positive impacts and outcomes for the business. They're allowed to navigate the complexity without having a filter of the CIO, CFO, CEO, or board. They become a strategic advisor to the company.
I love that. And if we had a big room, because normally we'd be in a big room with posters everywhere, right? You'd be writing those words on the wall. Yep. You'd be writing strategic autonomy on the wall. You'd be writing strategic advisor. You'd be categorizing some of that. And so that we can collect it. And at the end, and imagine, if you had a full C-suite at 8 people, they've all got their differences, and they're giving these words, and we're writing them down. So just kind of keep that vision in mind. And then we're headed to now the third question. When CISO advisor has one, what is true that is not true today? And Matt says cybersecurity has truly become a business aligned risk managed together with the other business risks, not a separate discipline. So just part of that overall risk profile.
Yeah. So I mean, the way I answered it was we've eliminated security versus the business. It's become a false dichotomy, right? It's security is now looked at as a competitive advantage. Our humans are within the business are now have security built into the DNA. So they truly are that human firewall that, all these articles always talk about. And we really think of resilience as a default model for the business because it's about resilience. It's not just security program. It's a resilience model that we need all in. Right. So but at the high level, if I were just to put a few words up there, it's security versus the business, right? That's gone. That disappears.
So we got, y'all got to help me with the words because I don't have my charts on the wall, right? So I heard resilience. Yep. I heard security versus the business. I heard strategic advisor, strategic, whatever that
competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Our user base truly becomes that extension of the security team because it's built into the DNA of what we do. I've always said you're winning when an intern raises their hand and says, "Hey, wait a minute, this doesn't look right."
Love that. Love that. Security is everybody's job, right?
Security is everybody's job. You got it.
Yep. Awesome. Well, so normally what would happen now is we have all these words on the wall, and we would have some inspiration. So we might have some vision statements and purpose statements from other companies on the wall. We will now have all this kind of feedback of what people thought, and we would have had a conversation, aligned it. We would have captured words all over the place. And now we would say, all right, you have all that background. You've seen some good vision statements. You've seen some, the alignments in the room. We've had those debates for, an hour on where we should go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to draft a draft vision statement. And so Matt has done that. Matt's drafted one before this meeting, and we'll put that up and talk about it for a minute. And I think, Jason, you may have drafted one as well.
I did.
Yep. I don't have it, so I can't put it up, no, but it's okay.
I kind of like the surprise that we have here.
Right. We haven't seen each other's stuff.
I like it.
I just lost my camera, guys. I don't know what happened. You can still hear me?
Yes.
We got your audio, yeah.
And your slides are still up.
Audio, no camera.
It's interesting.
Just turn it on, off, and back on. It seems to be working. Nope. Yep.
There
it is.
Now you're back.
There you go.
All right.
Don't know. Okay. All right, so we've got the vision statement up here that Matt drafted. Jason, I'm not gonna read all this. What's your initial reaction to Matt's vision statement?
Well, let's see.
Feel like we should be playing some Jeopardy music.
Yeah. Like Jeopardy theme. Again, it's so funny how your day-to-day kind of dictates how you position things, right? I look at this as position from the product leadership side, right? Because I know, Matt, that's your sweet spot, right? Is being in there and strategically building products and making sure that cybersecurity teams aren't influenced by all of the product pressure that's happening, especially now out there in the industry with AI and all of these magic pills that you can take because it has AI on the marketing slogans, right? Mine, again, was from the CISO as a business leader perspective. And mine is basically, CISO advisor exists to transform cybersecurity from a technical necessity to a strategic enabler. It empowers leaders to build resilient organizations where the alignment of clarity, capability, and trust turns security into a foundation of sustained growth for the business.
All right. So I hear a lot of words and there's a lot of meat in this vision statement. If we're thinking about a vision statement as separate from a success formula, right? So the vision statement is, where are we going in 10 years? And the success formula is, how do we tell if we're on track? Let's try to work with it a little bit and parse that out. Let's start with Matt's and try to parse out what's vision and what might be successful. Because I think there's a little bit of both in here. And I think we would probably want to parse it out to it. Because the vision statement is something you want to be rattle off the top of your head.
Yeah,
I mean, I want everybody to know
out
the
of the
vision.
gate, from the outside looking in on what Matt wrote, becoming the most trusted source. That is huge for me, right? If you're viewed as the most trusted source out there in the industry, that is extremely visionary and important. I pull that out right away.
Yeah. So pretend I have my whiteboard. I'm writing,
So then we'll break this apart. AI-powered knowledge, I look at that as execution strategy. That's what's making you the most trusted, right? Empowering practitioners with accurate vendor neutral, that's execution. That's what you're delivering. That's the outcome you're delivering.
Yeah.
Through secure, intelligent automation, transformation, I think, is visionary, right? We transform expertise.
I love that.
Right.
So transform expertise and we're transforming them to become the cybersecurity industry's most trusted source.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. And then now to combine mine, like I'm looking at vision versus how. So I had transform in there as well, right?
Yeah.
To a strategic business enabler. We're transforming to a strategic business enabler. That's vision. By empowering leaders is execution.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we're empowering them to build resilient organizations.
Yep. So again, if I had my whiteboards, right? I'd be parsing now. And this is totally common, by the way. This happens in every facilitation that it's all jumbled together. Sure. And so we come together, and remember, you're going to have 8, 9, however many people you got on the team, and they're doing this. And so you're going to parse out these statements, and you're going to have the ones that are visionary on one big chart, and you're gonna the ones that are more execution focused or success metrics, you're gonna have on another big chart. And so we would start building these out, and then we would have a vote. We'd stop once we get them all kind of collectively built out on the charts. We give people some stars. You get 3 green stars, 3 red stars, whatever, and you get to pick 3. And so everybody goes along and they pick some, and then you start narrowing it down where, okay, everybody's zeroing in on transformational. Everybody's zeroing in on trust. Everybody's zeroing in on strategic. And then you start, okay, now that we've narrowed it down to that, everybody take that and go draft a new vision statement.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, running through this just between the two of our, perspectives and where we operate within the cybersecurity world, it's great. Now Matt and I could have a shared vision if we built it together.
No,
right?
because it is interesting, right, Jason, because of our backgrounds of how we each approach this. But what I almost have the rough draft like documented as we've been going through this, right?
Yeah, I've been seeing you write things down.
Yeah, so I'm over here this is what the Say Easy Do Hard is for, right? So something like this, not probably 100% correct, but this is kind of the gist I got out of this, right? CISO advisor is the most trusted source for transforming collective cybersecurity expertise into a strategic business enabler, driving organizational resilience or something along those lines. Like that, just
exactly
right.
Yes, that's right down the right path. That's amazing. I love it. That's amazing.
Just in a few simple little back and forths, you get to something that's pretty darn close.
Yeah, and then it's just refinement from there, right? And literally, while we're on this podcast, you built it out. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and then we would go to that next step. Once we lock the vision, now we're going to say, okay, if we're going to achieve that in 10 years, what has to be true for us to do that? And we start pulling out some of these other things, and we build out our success formula. And so if you go to the book and you look at some of those things, and in the book, they're building a robot that drives around fields. It's sustained on solar power. It uses a laser to eliminate weeds without chemicals and herbicides. And so, the vision, I hope I can remember it. I should, right? I wrote it. But it's something like sustainable, safe, and reliable, or something like that. I don't know, right? Yeah. But whatever that is, those become elements in your operational plan and your strategic plan. So now you've locked, here's the vision, here's where we're going, but here's how we get there. And those things, if sustainability is a thing, your product now has to be loyal to that sustainability success metric.
Yeah. Right. And then Greg, in order to be able to execute on that 5 to 10 year plan, whatever you decide that plan is going to be, you're really going to have to flex the muscle of these 5 disciplines, because 100%. That's going to be huge in order to be successful, right?
100%.
And you have to go through each one of those and make sure that you're flexing that muscle and exercising that muscle in order to be able to be successful and move the needle. Because, I just look at the leadership first mindset. Humans are so locked in to execution that it's hard for them to separate themselves out and get out of execution. It's almost like a default button. When things get tough, I default to execute because I know I can get something done. But that's not always the best place for a leader to be. I've seen CEOs fall victim to this.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
CEOs who own technology companies or product companies, they're supposed to be that leader and that visionary. But when the stuff hits the fan, they're an engineer, right? And no, you can't have that.
In my experience, that's exactly right. And my experience is that, you really need a CEO and a COO or whatever, but the CEO, let him be the visionary. Let him be that person that has all the crazy ideas and all the great ideas. But you need somebody who can operationalize that into actual business results. And that's a COO or, whoever it's going to be.
But the CEO and the COO also need to want it. Because sometimes they want to go back to the execution in the engineering, and they're choosing that path, right? So
they do.
You gotta break some of that old muscle memory.
Guys, I'm gonna change cameras. This thing is sorry. I don't know what's happening with my camera.
USB enabled? Could be overpowering the USB hub.
It could be. I don't know. But now I can't figure out how do I do it. Here we go. Looks like I can't change it during this session. Okay, well, I'll just turn it on and off again. Like any good IT person, right?
No, we can just edit this section out if we need to. But
really sorry.
If you need to swap it out, that's okay.
What in the world it's doing? All right. What was the question?
So the last comment that I made was CEOs and COOs need to want to break that muscle memory, because a lot of go back to that muscle memory.
Yeah, there's a book on that actually called Rocket Fuel. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, right? Yeah. But essentially separates the CEO and the visionary and the COO into the execution arm, and sets up some really great processes between those folks to be able to actually do this and do it well. What my program does is it actually shows you the roadmap how to do it. And the cool thing about the purpose architecture is that's the high level. And we don't come in and tell you what that needs to be. We help you find it, but then you got to go operationalize it. And all of that stuff has to roll up to bonus metrics and strategic plans and deliverables and, everybody's individual goals for the year. It ought to all cascade down, but it cascades out of that, the success formula at the top. That's the highest level.
I love it. Incentivize the behavior that you want to be achieved at the end of the day, right? Because we've talked about it on the show so many times where we think about nirvana, but unfortunately compensation is incentivizing other things. Right. Right? They're not allowing you to get to that nirvana place of actually doing the good job and business that you need to be doing.
Exactly.
Because compensation is undermining it.
Yeah. I see it in my day job, Jason, all the time, right? Like if you don't have the right incentives in place, there's people are going to do things that you don't want them to do.
Right. You'll never move the needle.
Well, I want to go back to a question you asked last time, Jason, which was, what if the organization doesn't want to do this? What do you do? And I said, lead where you are, right? That was my answer to you.
Yep.
And the cool thing about this, I did this for the first time with a team, and I did this over and over with teams, 8, 9, 10, 12 times with my own teams, different teams, cyber teams, IT teams, HR teams, legal teams. So you don't have to do it at the organizational level. In a perfect world, we want the CEO to be able to do this for the whole organization, have everybody bought in and have everybody do their own. So everybody's bought in. But if that doesn't happen, just lead where you are. If you're a legal team or you're a cyber team or you're an IT team or whatever you are, bring that leadership team together.
Yep.
Put the purpose architecture in place, operationalize this through your team. And you know what? You're going to be one of the best, most effective teams in the company after you do that, because you've built the environment and you started leading where you are.
And then other teams will want to know how you did it, right? We say it here all the time. Leadership isn't a title. Leadership isn't an org chart. Leadership is an action. And everybody has a level of leadership that they need to execute. So no matter where you are in the organization, you can lead by example.
100%.
And people will follow. Teams will follow.
100%.
If you do it the right way.
Yep, for sure.
All right, Greg, now I got my vision statement. Now I'm going to have to build out the rest of the framework. So I guess I got to go buy a book or something and to really dig in.
Yeah, you can dig into PTP and have me come to a purpose session, or we can just do some more of this online. That's good.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. Greg, thank you so much for joining us on Business Security Weekly today.
You bet. It's been a blast. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so have we. Jason,
Absolutely.
always a pleasure. Like,
Yeah, this is great.
it was the dynamics of just a simple little use case was
and
great.
I mean, we didn't know each other's answers coming into this, which was absolutely amazing. I love it.
Exactly.
I can't believe the time's gone already because I didn't even get to tell you about Lauren in totality. So
I mean, Greg, I said it last time when you were on the interview. I'm like, oh my God, I can talk about this all day long.
This has been so much fun. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, it was a great pleasure. Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you're attending Black Hat, come find us at the Livewire studio. Otherwise, we'll see you next week on Business Security Weekly. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this content and would like to find more, see what the rest of the Security Weekly network has to offer. Visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to find all of our shows and the latest episodes. Hope to see you on a future episode.